back then. We talked about the fact that they had writings, and they developed writing, and both of them developed those. Mostly the Sumerians and the people who settled in Mesopotamia developed how to make bricks. Because why? Why would you develop how to make bricks?
Build houses.
Build houses. Why couldn't you build them out of trees? Pardon me? No, I think they're strong enough. Yeah.
Before I answer the question, I need to ask the question to see if it's right. Did they get out the metal tools?
We'll get into that, but let's assume they do.
Okay, well then, my answer is, I was going to say because they didn't have tools to strip trees, but you said that's just the thing to do, so yeah.
Well, all right, take a look at your maps. Now, we said the only area they can live in is the green part, which is the Tigris and Euphrates River. And they used, no, I'm fine. And they used the river to irrigate their fields. But does that mean that they had trees? No. No. The rivers, they had to take the water from the rivers into the land, making ditches and canals to get the water to the field so they could grow crops. Because both sides of the river there was not much in the way of vegetation. There were no trees. If you look up at the very top, the top arch up there, that area up there were trees, tall trees. They're called the cedars of Lebanon. Huge trees. But that's the only place that there are any trees at all, almost on this whole map. You see, most of this rock is mountains. Now, in the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, how close are the closest mountains? Not very close. So if they wanted to build their houses out of stone, they'd have to haul it a long way. So what are they going to make it out of? They don't have wood. They don't have stone. What are they going to make it out of? They made bricks. They made mud. They took mud and they made bricks. Then they found out that by putting stuff in the mud, like straw or sticks or plant matter, it held the mud together better. So they would make bricks, and then they would bake those bricks, because that's clay. That's clay. When you dig around in the dirt here, there's different types of dirt. There's some dirt that's sandy. You can't use that for making bricks. There's some dirt, this topsoil is the dirt that's fertile that you want to grow in. That's not good for making bricks either. But if you dig down a ways, the dirt gets really hard, and it's when you squeeze it in your fingers, it'll hold together like in a ball. That's clay. There's different types of clay. And different types of clay make different types of, come out with different colors. Like kaolin comes out as white, and it's what they used to make porcelain. Where there's red, Mexico has red clays, and so when you bake it, you get red clay, you get red bricks. And then there's brown clays, and then there's gray clays. But clay is a mixture that is very hard when you're digging it, but it likes to stick together because of the materials in it. It has a certain amount of silica. And silica is also in sand, but when you bake it, if you were to bake sand, lightning hits sand. Do you know what would happen to it?
Turns into glass?
Yes, it turns into glass. That's how they found out about glass.
Yes.
The lightning strikes a sandy beach, you have glass. Yeah, so you melt sand wherever the lightning went and melted it. It got so hot, it melted it. When it cooled, it was glass. Well,
I
why
guess
would
it
you-
isn't a beach anymore now. It's
Well,
skating.
he didn't do the whole beach. When lightning strikes, the light strikes the tree, does the whole backyard? Oh, what did you do? No, just the tree. It follows the tree down to the ground. When lightning strikes the beach, it wants to go toward the water wherever it's wet because it conducts. So you would get maybe, or something, and it will strike something high on the beach and run down to the ground. But anyway, they found out that,
So that's how there's always glass all over the beach.
well, mostly it's glass all over the beach because people bring bottles to the beach or they have them out in the water and they throw them overboard and they get broken and the waves make them smoother and throw them up on the beach and yeah. So, but yes, there's a certain amount of natural formed glass from lightning hitting sand. And at first they didn't use glass they didn't have windows analysis. They didn't know how to do that. They wouldn't figure out how to do that until about the 1200s.
So how would they have to keep bugs from coming in and not seeing sunlight?
They would put cloth over their windows, or they would put wooden shutters. But mostly in dry areas, they would put cloth. They're like screens, with cloth over it. Well, it kept the sun out, kept the bugs out. In order to protect it from the rain or elements, or from enemies attacking your house, bandits breaking in, they would put shutters, wooden shutters. Now, there was a certain amount of wood around, but not the kind of wood you build houses with. The scrubby, bushy type, so they could cut that up and weave that into, weave it together or put them next to each other and nail them together or, with rope, tie them together to make shutters and stuff. They would use those kind of things to make pens for their animals too. They would make walls for their animals to go into. And then they would make a gate out of something like that. Weave sticks together with rope.
I don't really see metal gates and wooden gates.
Yeah, see, because we live a lot in a whole different era than they lived in. But think about it. These are things you need to know. Supposing that we had World War III and there was no more electricity and there was no more anything, you had to start all over again. Civilization has started over again and over again many times. And every time, well, Noah was a good example. You had Adam and Eve till Noah. Civilization had to start over again. And you're going to find this as we go through history. Constantly, civilizations having to start over. And when they start over, they go all the way back to the beginning. There's certain things that you need to live. What are the things that you need to live? You need shelter. You need shelter from your enemies, from animals, from the elements. You need food and water, shelter. What else? Huh? He said food and water. Clothing. Yeah. You need clothing, food, and water. What else? One more thing. Well, no. You don't. A lot of people will tell you don't really need that to live. We beg to differ with that, but no. There's a lot of people out there you don't need religion to live. But let's just get down to the material things that you need. That's food. Food and water, shelter, clothing. Now, you need protection. You need some kind of protection. And I'm not necessarily talking about a building. Yes, you build a house that protects you from the elements. Is it going to protect you from your enemies? Yeah. Yeah, you're going to need weapons. You're going to need some kind of protection. Yeah. Because if you have anything, there's always somebody who's going to want to take it from you. So let's take a look at those 4 things. So, food. Noah comes down from the ark. He has some animals with him. He took all of his own animals, his own chickens and cows and goats into the ark with him. But he also has other animals that God sent along with him. But it comes out of the ark, he plants vineyards, he plants crops, and he still has his chickens and his goats and his cows. But now his family is moving away, and they also take their animals with them. And some of his children and grandchildren are going to go off and live in Russia and Asia and what other places. They're not necessarily going to take the chickens and goats along with them, because you can't travel well with a lot of animals. What would you do? You don't have chickens or goats. What are you going to do for food? Well, you can kill the animals and eat them, and then now they're all gone. Now what are you going to do?
Hunt.
Hunt. You want to hunt. What else are you going to do? What is another way of getting food?
Well,
Huh?
for protection also, you can maybe have a guard dog.
Well, we'll get to that. We're doing just food right now.
Um,
So you're going to hunt. What's another way of getting food?
Growing.
You can grow it. Yes, they're going to grow it if they can grow it. Now, let's say you're not in a place where there's rivers or water. So what are you going to do? You're going to hunt. What else? Let's say you're in a forest area. Yes, there is land here that you can grow, but there's forest. I mean, it's hard to grow plants like corn or things to eat when you're in the middle of a forest because there's not enough sunlight.
You can hunt for berries.
You could, hunt for berries. It's called gathering. You can find out what is around there. You can collect mushrooms. There's lots of plants that are edible. There's all kinds of herbs and things that grow wild. Watercress, there's flowers that you can eat. You can catch, a lot of people fish. So that's how a lot of people started out, especially these people that are going out after the Tower of Babel and into other countries, other lands. They see what's in the land. Some of them will take their animals with them. But when they get into rocky places, sometimes you have to kill the animals and eat them and leave them behind. Because you can't carry them over the mountains with you.
And maybe
And
take the
so when they get
skins
into a new
also.
place, they do hunting, what's called hunting and gathering. Find out what's there, collect it, eat it, see what's good to eat, what's not. You know, if you ate those mushrooms and they killed you, then you're never, your brother, then you're never going to eat those kind of mushrooms again. A lot of people would maybe take that and feed it to their animals first and see if they didn't die from it.
That's a good idea.
But anyway, so you had hunting and gathering. You had some farming in areas where you could farm, like the Nile and the Fertile Crescent, and other places as they traveled in other countries. And you had herding, domesticated animals. Now on your map, these areas that are green, you can farm, but the areas outside of that are better areas for the sheep and goats, because sheep and goats eat pretty much anything. They don't have to have, they can eat brambles and they can eat all kinds of prickly stuff that grows in rocky areas. They like mountains because they're pretty sure-footed. They like to be a little higher than everything around them. I know our goat used to always stand on top of the doghouse just because it was the highest thing in the area. He pretty much lived standing on top of the doghouse. We'll go get in the doghouse when it rained or whatever. But they like to be a little bit higher. So mountain areas are fine for goats. And sheep are pretty much along the same line. Sheep are a little bit more particular about what they eat than goats are. Or pigs. Pigs are not particular about what they eat either. But again, if you're living in an area where there's not a lot of room to raise crops, you can usually raise sheep or goats. Sometimes cattle. Cattle are very particular about what they eat, and horses are the most particular about what they eat. So that takes care of the food part of it. What about clothing? What are you going to use for clothes?
Maybe you could skin a goat if you had to.
Yeah, first of all, they would develop tanning hides. all the animals that they had to kill to eat, they would keep those hides and see if they could use them some way. Turn them into leather. Or turn them into fur coats.
After you kill your goat, just take the skin.
Yeah, and or you kill a bear, or you kill a lion. You skin him and you use his skin. Make a rug out of it. Make a fur coat for your wife. Whatever. So, all right. So then there was that. What about areas that did not have a lot of animals that you could hunt, like desert areas? They would, if in the Tigris and Euphrates areas, what are they going to use? They're not going to go out and kill animals because they don't have a lot of, unless they're their own animals. They're not a lot of. What are they going to use for clothing? They can raise crops. There are crops that you use to make clothing. They can, in the rockier areas where they have sheep and goats, you can use, there are animals that you can use their, you don't have to kill them. You can use their hair. Sheep, rabbits. You can even spin cat and dog fur, I'm sorry, but you can. It's not as great as sheep hair, but it works. Yes?
If you live like in maybe a desert place, how would you get food? There isn't much animals and I don't think you can.
That's why nobody lives in deserts. And if they do live in a desert, they live in what they call an oasis, which is a spot where there is some water or at least a well. Because first of all, you need water. There's what they call the rule of sixes. You can live, I think it's sixes or three. I think it's sixes. You can go for 3 days without water. That's the limit. No, you can go for 3 minutes without air, and then you'll die. Most people. You can go for 3 days without water, and then you'll die. You can go for 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks? Without food? Yes. And then you'll die. So, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I know.
I think it might be 6 minutes, 6 days, 6 weeks, but I'm not sure. I think it's more like 3. I'm going to have to double check on that. But you see, the air is the most necessary thing. You can't hold your breath that long.
Yeah.
But the next thing you need is the water. If you get dehydrated, you're going to die. And you dehydrate quickly. So you can go a certain amount of time, a few days without water, but you're going to die. So if you're in the desert and there's no way to get water, you're not going to live long. You can go longer without food. Your body will live off its own fat.
That's why no one wants to maybe go in the middle of the
Yeah,
desert. Maybe
right.
you can go like in the sides where you can just quickly get out.
Yeah,
You have to travel.
Deserts are tricky like that because sometimes you don't know which direction you're going. Yeah, because the sun plays tricks on you. You think you're going north, but you're not. And you have to go by the sun, which is constantly moving, and you might get all turned around. All right, so back to this. So if you can plant crops, so you can get clothing from animals, either by their hides or by their hair. If you can plant crops, you can also plant crops that you can use to make clothing. What are those crops? Cotton. What's linen made out of? Anybody know? Linen. And linen was one of the most popular things back in this period of time.
Linen?
Linen. Flax. Made from flax. It's a plant.
Like you think because it was so breathable?
Because it was easy to grow. Yes, it was breathable. I think it took them a while to figure out about cotton, but yeah, It's a plant, and it's a plant that you grow. It's about so tall. You cut it down, and like most other things, you have to break down the fibers in it. So what they grass it. They put it in water and let it soak for a couple of days. And then they take it out and let it dry on the grass by the water. They weigh it down under the water, and then they put it out. Now the water has helped break up some of the stems. These are all stems. And then they have a board that has something like nails or pegs through it, mostly like nails, but close together like a comb. And they take bunches of it and they hit it and pull it through there like comb, like you're combing your hair. And the comb breaks up those fibers until they separate the fibers smaller and smaller and smaller until they're like threads. And when they reach that point, then they can spin them. And it is. I read about how to do it, but I saw a YouTube video not too long ago where they were actually in one of these rural places where they have museums. They were showing, if this was in England, how you do it. I had never actually seen it done. I had read about the process, but it was really interesting to watch how much work went into doing it. And of course, if you lived in China, you could there's always silkworms. They would use the silkworms. Silkworms live on mulberry leaves. They eat them. And when they spin a cocoon, it's the cocoon that they take. And they unravel that cocoon, which is one long thread. Though they don't really unravel the one long thread. They actually just break the cocoons open. They eat the thing that's inside it, and then they proceed to take apart the cocoon and weave it into threads.
They would eat the worms?
Oh, yeah. Yes?
How did you survive? You were crossing miles of water and you ran out of food and water. What?
You mean like you're on a raft? Like in the middle of the ocean and you can't go?
Right. In the middle of the Pacific, on a raft, ran out of food. What do you do?
Well, you got fish all around you in the water. Food's not the problem on a raft in the ocean. What's the problem on a raft in the ocean?
Water.
Water.
Do not drink salt or don't make
Do not drink the salt water. It will make you sick and it will actually kill you much faster.
Really?
You can actually, though, if you are able to get fish have oil. And you can suck the oil out of the fish. It will not taste great, but it is a liquid and you can live that way. You can also put things out and, yes, it tastes very disgusting. Have you ever had cod liver oil?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah. Enough said. Okay. So, also, if you're out in the middle of the ocean, you can put things out like an awning or something to collect water when it rains. And it does rain.
Yeah, but doesn't rainwater taste bad?
Rainwater is actually very good for you.
Once at church, it started raining and some water got in my cup. I didn't know it was rainwater. I was drinking it. I was like, ugh.
Well, it depends.
First
First of all, where did the rainwater come from? If the rainwater came off the roof from the building, yeah, not great. Okay, and you have to, and generally, because it's been off the roof, it probably needs to be purified. If it comes directly from the sky, you can drink it. You can drink it. But again, with the pollution that we have in this day and age, I'm not sure that it would taste as great as water at this time. This period. Okay, so we have food, clothing. So people learn to spin things. Shelter, we did that. We have there's wood. If you are living in an area where there is wood, you can build wooden houses. There's stone if you're living in areas where there's stone.
What about somebody who lives in the desert? How would they make it? Would they have a glass house?
No.
It would be very strong.
No. How do people in deserts live? How do people in deserts live? We're going to get to that soon because the next person we're going to be talking about is Abraham. How do people in deserts live? Yeah?
Dugouts.
Tents. Tents. The Indians on the Great Plains, how do they live? They use teepees. They build tents, mostly because we're talking about people who move from one place to another. And they want to be able to take down their houses and take them with them. When you live in the desert, you want to move. First of all, you want to live close to the oasis where there's the water. And if you're raising animals, and I don't know why you're living in the desert anyway, it has to be giving you something. A lot of Bedouin and nomadic people up in the African desert, they raise horses, and they also raise camels and livestock like that. But they move from one oasis to the next, so they usually live in tents. And so they can move. And that's what we're going to see with Abraham. But we'll get to him later. So what about protection?
I guess they would take like a stick and then like put like an animal tooth on it.
That was one way.
Or just take a wall.
If there's wood that you can sharpen it up into make a pointed stick, yeah, you can make a spear out of that. You can use animal horns or tusks from wild pigs or some other animals' bones. Bones can be very sharp and be used for making points on spears. They also found very quickly that there were certain rocks that, like flint, that you could crack and they would become very sharp. Another one is obsidian, which is again is a glass. And well, flint was used to rub against steel, makes fire. But they would take, but you can chip it, and they would make it into arrowheads and spearheads. So, and that period of time we call, and we actually break down prehistoric and historic time into time periods, depending upon the kinds of weapons people used. The earliest weapons were made out of stone. That period did not last very long because they very quickly learned that stone is not that great. There are better things. So the next period of time we call the Bronze Age. I told you that in Samaria they had copper and they had tin. Tin and copper are not usually near each other, but within the area of the valley, they found both copper and tin. Now, copper is a very soft metal. You can bend it. Piece of copper, you can bend it. Same with tin, you can bend it. But they found that if you put copper and tin together, you make a very strong metal called bronze. And you can make it very sharp. So once they found out that they could do that, and they became what they called the Bronze Age. And the Bronze Age lasted, lasted for about 2,000 years. And they found, and then there was a problem. They ran out of tin. They couldn't find new places to get tin. And they needed the tin to mix with the copper to make the bronze. So when they ran out of tin, they began experimenting with other metals. Now, iron is all over the place. Iron ore is everywhere. But iron, when they tried making weapons out of iron, and they found out that it wasn't as hard as bronze. So if I was fighting you in a battle, you had a bronze weapon and I had an iron weapon, you had an advantage over me. Because when our swords hit, yours would chip mine, could even break mine, but mine wouldn't break yours. But in the process of making bronze, the process that they go through, they first have to take tin and melt it. But they melt it with the presence of charcoal. And then they had to add melted copper to it, the two melted metals together. And in order to extract copper from stone, they also had to use charcoal. It's the process of using the charcoal they found that they started out with the same process but began using iron ore instead. But they found that when they used melted iron ore with charcoal, they got something different. They still got iron, but it was a stronger iron. You call it steel. Still iron, but it's strong, it's more compact.
Is
And
it stronger
than bronze. Yes, and this brought in the Iron Age, and the Iron Age would last for a long time. And we actually still have steel today. We still use it that way. We've changed the process and made steel even stronger. The steel that they had and the steel that we have are very different. The steel we have, we can build skyscrapers. They could not do that with their steel. Because it's not as strong. It takes a special kind of furnace, which was invented by Bessemer in the United States to make, with the absence of air, that will make the make steel that strong, that compact. But the kind that they did, and they will continue to work on steel. And by the time of the Middle Ages, they had refined steel to a point, like a Toledo steel blade was a magnificently strong, sharp, almost unbreakable steel blade. And very expensive. But the kind we're talking about now that the Hittites have, not so great, but better than bronze. So this is the Iron Age. So they have weapons. Another way they would protect themselves was to put up walls. As I said, in the Euphrates River Valley, they would go into the cities at night, behind the walls, to protect themselves. So you had people grouping together into cities for protection. So, all right, so you have food, clothing, shelter, protection. But then there's always the other things that people want, but they don't really need. Right? Those like necklaces, and there's other things that people want. Furniture, whatever. So how do you get those things?
Stuff.
Huh?
Stuff for like a chair.
Stuffing for a chair. Yeah. Maybe you know how to build. Maybe you can build a table. She wants a table. Her husband is totally incapable of building a table. That one leg is always a little shorter and the thing wobbles. Some men just can't build things. But her husband is great at making leather. Right. But she wants a table. Yeah.
So they trade.
They trade.
So
It's called barter.
I'll
It's
make
called
you a
barter.
table because you're not very good at it. You give me some leather because I'm not good at making that.
Yeah, and I need leather to make hinges for boxes that I'm making or whatever. Armor. The first armor was not metal; it was leather. Oh, you can make leather very, very strong, depending on how you treat it, the chemicals that you treat it with, how you treat it. You can make it extremely strong. No, it'll stop an arrow.
I thought leather, you just slice it,
Well, we would like to make leather really soft because we want to use it for shoes and belts and things like that. But you can go the other direction with leather too, and make it as hard as a rock. But it's light. And that was also another advantage of iron weapons over bronze weapons. Bronze weapons were heavy. Iron weapons were light. Easy to carry, easier to carry, easier to use. So we've had bartering. So let's try bartering. Let's see how well you do this. So So I'm going to give you each one thing, and I'm going to split this up. So this is a necklace. Who wants a necklace? All right. This is ivory. Anybody want ivory? Where does ivory come from? Anybody know? Elephant tusks. Actually, the teeth of a lot of animals. Boar's tusks, elephant tusks, walrus tusks. Those are some bones, some kinds of things. So somebody has ivory. Who wants ivory?
Me.
All right. You're going to get two of these. Tambourine. What's a tambourine?
Like, I think it's an
It's a musical instrument. It's a round disc with height stretched over it, kind of like a drum top. And now usually on the sides they also put like pieces of metal that will jingle when you shake it.
Do you have swords in that file?
I don't know if I have swords. Tambourine? I don't think I have swords in this file. Come on, I'm going to just hand you something here. You got the tambourine. You can always trade it for something else, you know. Alabaster. Alabaster is a kind of stone. It's white. And they're used often for making, for carving it, making statues and things like that.
I've got a
How about bread? Bread.
That's the life giving.
And papyrus. Papyrus was used by the Egyptians to make paper. It was their paper. It was their kind of paper. An arrow. All right. There you go. Arrow.
So Kevin.
Eye paint. The Egyptians, both men and women, painted their outlined their eyes.
Wait, this is
Hey,
here?
Michael, you already know.
Huh?
Wait, this is
I don't want this. I don't know.
Grain.
I will.
Grain.
I paint.
Rope.
Rope.
Rope. You got rope. Sandals.
I will. Oh yeah, I have one.
All right. When everybody has one, let me know. A scarab is like a medallion. Looks like a baby. Kind of jewelry. Cat. Does everybody have one?
Agnes needs
Not
cat.
Agnes needs cat. All right, Agnes, come on. Cat.
Oh no, I gave it to my.
All right, you get a mirror.
Claudia doesn't have one.
Mirrors, by the way, were not made out of glass. What would a mirror be made out of?
Rock.
Huh?
Rock.
No.
Stones maybe?
No.
I would like
Steel.
bronze.
You're close.
Bronze.
Bronze. It's really shiny metal to reflect you. Oh. All right, does everybody have one now?
Not quite.
Everybody has one? Does anybody not have one?
Claudia.
Claudia, here you go. You get ointment. It's used for medicine.
That's very important.
All right, now I'm randomly going to give you another one, and it cannot be the same one as the one you have, all right? So you get ointment.
So should we tell you if
No, it
it's
doesn't.
one?
If it's the same one, here's yours. Here's yours. If I give you the same one, give it back. Yeah. What's yours? Here. Now the way this works is you're going to, the first one I gave you is the one you want.
Yeah.
Is the one you,
Sister, I don't have one.
here.
I think
Who else?
I need a second one.
Claudia, do you have a second one?
What is that? Right next to me.
What's brown? What's brown?
Grain. Grain. All right, the first one I gave you is the thing you want. The second one I gave you is what you have. So now you have to go around the room and trade with other people till you get what you want. When you have both cards are the same, both papers are the same, then you come back and sit down and show me. Show me. Right? Go around and trade with other people. Trade the second card that I gave you
Who wants
with other people to come up with what you want. So you give him yours.
What's your first
Yeah.
one?
No, was that the one I gave you first?
That was What's your first
All right, then you're done.
Okay.
Some people will make it try it right away, but other people won't have what you want. trade for a cat. Go ahead, trade for a cat. All right. See,
Agnes,
Agnes wants a cat, I know.
Here, wait. How does it work?
You want what I gave you the first two?
Want this?
Do
Wait,
the
which
same
one?
thing.
So that was your
What I gave you the first was the one you wanted.
Yes.
Okay. How many trades do
So
you
you
take?
trade, so you give some.
Yay! Some people will make it the first time. Some will need 2 trades. Some may need
Yeah, so now
3.
you got yours.
Some may need
Yeah.
4 or 5 trades.
Okay, so
Who likes Papyrus?
he has rope. Wait, you have ointment.
Can't read again. Ointment.
Well, he had 2 tambourines.
now you
No,
charge
he had
me.
to try to find someone with ointment.
Who has ointment?
Ointment.
You're not supposed to be switching the card that you had
Claudia
first.
needs
That's
ointment.
what you want.
No, I have the thing
Wait,
I
so
want.
which one? Oh, John, wait. Here, trade for no.
Messing everything up because he's switching back and forth the tambourine. So that can't, someone is doing something wrong there.
Okay, yeah, she does. She does.
No, I just had to go. I
Just
just
some-
Yeah, great.
Did it work?
Okay, good. Good.
Oh, she
Here,
does.
did I?
You have yours? How many trades did you take you to get that?
I have 3.
More like 4.
I took 3.
I need iPhone.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a while.
I think it took me for. But now.
Now, see, if that was a real thing, that's what would happen is you would have something, you would have to trade for somebody else. You may not get what you want on the first trade, but you know that Agnes wants a cat, so and she has what you want. So you go find out who else has a cat, trade them, and go trade her for the cat.
That does, but not.
All right, put your baby back here once you have everything. Oh, those are hieroglyphics.
Okay,
That's how
so
I was written. Hieroglyphics. All right. So you understand how bartering works? Does anybody not understand? We need to do it again?
I'm supposed to barter. You didn't.
Wait.
Yeah, he got his right away, so he really doesn't understand it.
No, I still understand it though.
wait. What is that?
At my school, I know.
No,
I know what I have.
what
So,
what
yeah,
did you
so
get
I'm
wrong?
good
I
at
know
necklace.
that your second one.
I do that with my sisters a lot.
I think that was your first. Yeah, that was your first. So Claudia did that was John. And then the lightning that's for air. No, wait. She said, wait. Who is this for? No, look. So basically, you trade with Claudia. She trades you ointment. And wait.
No, I got ointment.
She trades him with the rope. And she has these. No.
Oh, boy.
I think part of the problem was he kept trading off the wrong card. He was trading off the one that he wanted instead of the one that he had. All right, good. Finally. Don't you trade?
It took me about 5
That's
It took me almost.
I know.
So I give it to someone.
Okay, so everybody understands now about bartering, how that works? Now, it happened that maybe your neighbor, you would trade with your neighbor, but lots of times, because you needed to trade, maybe make more than one trade, people would get together and form a market. Now, the markets are not like the stores that we have today. It's more like a farmer's market. Not like a flea market, but like a farmer's market, where everybody brings what they have in the center of town every Saturday morning or every day. And if you have something to trade, you go around and you look, people would just let a blanket out on the ground, put down what they had to trade. They would have maybe the wife would watch it while the husband goes around to see what other people have and make his trades. And people will come see what you have and say, oh, you've got a cat, or you've got chickens, and I've got a goat. How many of your, I want chickens, how many of your chickens will you give me for my goats? They would deal like, that barter, but they would later, because money has not yet been invented. Money's going to show up, but not yet. Why do we make money out of metals? Why not paper? Now we have paper money. We have $1 or $5 or $10, which is absolutely worthless because it's just a piece of paper. Why is most money made out of metals? Yeah. Well, the Egyptians had paper by this time, Papyrus. Yeah.
Because it was harder to like make a copy of it.
Because most coins were made out of gold.
Most coins were made out of gold, silver, or copper. Why?
Because you have to mine for it and it's rare.
It's rare. It's rare. It has more value. The coin in itself has value. You could melt down the gold and make a piece of jewelry out of it, or the silver, or the copper. You could take it to a metals person, who's making bronze medals. If you got copper, and say, hey, I got some, how much? Can you turn this copper into bronze? He'll say, yeah, but you need so much tin. They used those metals because those metals in themselves were rare and therefore were valuable. But in themselves, they had a value. Paper in itself has no value. You can burn it. You can, it has no value in itself. If it did have value, then you could use it. But in this day and age, you could go to, Office Depot and get a whole ream of paper and print off what looks like money, but nobody's going to take it. But, so when times get really bad, if the government falls in, the government falls in, the money's not going to, your paper money's going to be worth nothing. But if you have gold coins or silver coins, or if you have jewelry that is, like diamonds and rubies and sapphires, not fake jewelry, or you have other things that are of value, again, you can barter them, you can trade it, you can use it that way. So, and that's what. Money was invented when people needed to, they couldn't haul everything with them to go trade. They found that making coins was much easier to carry than everything that they put, huge. All right, so I make tables. I'm going to haul all my tables with me to, I'll sell them all to you. You can sell them in the marketplace and you just give me the money. Instead of giving me, you're going to give me, you have 2 cows to trade to me. I don't want to haul cows home. So that's when they began using money. Money was easier to carry. Money was easier to hide. Money was easy. It also had value in itself. Worst came to worst. The enemy comes in and wipes out my whole town. I can take my money and go somewhere else. It's still going to have value there, especially if it's gold or silver.
So, were you allowed to make your own money? Or no?
You could at the beginning. You could make your own money, but as cities developed and money developed, the kings, rulers began making money and printing it with their seal, with their picture on it, to show everybody this money came from Alexandria, this money came from Egypt, this money came from Assyria. And yes, you could trade those different monies because they had the same, if they weighed the same, they had the same value.
So you just feel the heavier, the more expensive it is?
Yeah, because it means there's more gold in it. We still go by that. Oh yeah. Gold's a troy ounce of silver. If you want to buy gold or silver, it's by the ounce. And how much, and you can go every day in the newspaper or on the internet and find out how much silver, what is the value of silver today? What is the value of silver? What is the value of gold today? Tomorrow it will be different. Goes up and down every day. In periods of time when the economy is very bad, gold and silver goes up. In times when the economy is very good and everybody's trading and selling and making all the money other ways, the value of silver and gold goes down.
So like, let's say the economy is good, like really good, so you buy a couple bars of gold.
Yeah.
And then later,
And when the economy goes bad, you're sitting pretty because now the price of gold and silver has gone up and you've got this.
so it's not just like in the store, it's just you have it, so it just like goes up or down, you can still use it.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
it has value in
And
itself.
it's like, let's say it's like $1,000 today. Let's just wait 3 days. The next day will be like $10,000.
It could be.
Yay!
It could be.
How
No,
much
you
is
usually
it now?
have to wait longer periods of time than that, but if the economy is really going down the tubes, it can change very quickly.
Maybe like next month.
Let's say that they declare war tomorrow, the value of gold and silver is going to go up really high. But yeah, so that's one thing. And I know some people, a lot of your, what they call it, preppers out there, they certainly have probably a store of gold and silver put aside for when the economy does finally hit the tubes and there's nothing else, that they can at least have something to trade. Or they will trade. During World War II, a lot of people would trade, the Jewish people especially, because they were being sent away to internment camps, they would take all that they had and turn it into small things that they could carry with them. Diamonds, rubies, sapphires.
But weren't they searched?
Yeah, but if it's really small, you can hide it. You can hide it. And they did. So, we're at the point now where people have, now they've built cities. Now they have bronze weapons going into iron weapons.